We've harvested a mountain of food this year, and now is a race against time to harvest the last of the crops before the first frost. Today we're picking tomatoes, lettuces and radishes, clearing the garden, making fresh pasta and canning like mad. The kitchen is chaos, the garden is alive and every jar is a victory. First of all, we have to harvest these tomatoes. This year has been the longest tomato season in my whole 8 years of growing. Normally we've completely lost the outside tomatoes by this time, but because of the warm and dry summer, they're really still going strong. However, the weather's now turned and it's super wet and the frost is just round the corner, so we really need to put these tomatoes to bed and harvest whatever we've got left. Now we're harvesting all the green tomatoes and the ripe tomatoes. It is safe to say that I've had a bumper crop of tomatoes this year, which means I've harvested more tomatoes than I've ever done before. A bumper crop comes every few years and can be super overwhelming, but I always like to see it as an opportunity to store away even more food, because you never know what it's going to be like next year. A few years ago we had really early blight and we lost all of our tomatoes early on, and that would be devastating now because we've grown a year's supply of tomato products for years. I literally don't know what I'd do with myself. This time of year, the weather turns and the rains really begin. Rain does two things to tomatoes. It spreads diseases and it splits your tomatoes, which means we have a load of split tomatoes for the chickens. Now, this is a super big job, so I'm going to leave it to Bob to harvest the last of the tomatoes. And later on, I'll show you how we can them up in a super easy sauce recipe that is an absolute no-brainer. But right now, I'm actually going to leave Bob and Jazz to finish off picking all these tomatoes and I'm off to the greenhouse. For years, I really didn't use my greenhouse to its full potential. And that's because I never grew up using a greenhouse. I really struggled to learn how to use a greenhouse, but I was always underwatering, under-fertilising and just underutilising my greenhouse. So I got tons of weeds and spider mites and you name it. This year, I have conquered the greenhouse and I'm so proud. In the summer, we grew a ton of peppers, which was wonderful, but now it's winter. We're growing a ton of lettuce, carrots and radishes, all cold weather loving plants.
Early light on the garden bed.
Now all the tomatoes have been harvested from this patch, it's really time for us to clear all of these dowels. It's not good for the dowels to be left out over the winter as they break down and decay. I've been growing tomatoes now for 8 years. This is really the longest time I've ever had tomatoes without getting blight. It is honestly shocking. Taking down the tomatoes really does signify the end of an era. However, now the harvest is in, we really have to switch to cleaning mode, and it's time to clean our veggie patches, and I can't help but reflect on the year. In primary schools here in the UK, we have a harvest festival which really resonates with me since I've started growing my own food. And when that rolled around this year, we really hadn't finished harvesting. I just felt super disconnected with it. Because of the weather and the harvest still rolling in, I didn't feel like I wanted to celebrate harvest just yet. But now it's all in and I'm spending the days just storing away the bounty that I have. I really feel a togetherness with like the hundreds of women that have come before me, growing, storing and preserving food to fill their pantries. I feel so proud and accomplished for everything we've done this year, knowing that I provided healthy and organic food to fuel my family, and there's nothing more satisfying to me.
Dew still clings where the chickens tread. Coffee warms as the morning begins, with laughter rolling on the
Now these dowels cannot be left out over the winter because they rot, only last for a couple of years, and to be honest I'm probably not going to use them for tomato supports next year, but I do want them to be in good nick because I can use them in loads of different projects around the allotment. Next year we do have metal supports and I got all of the metal for free, so I'm super excited about it. Bob's going to put together a whole tomato network next year, so it's going to be super exciting. So if you haven't done already, make sure you're subscribed because because then you'll know all of the wonderful things that he builds over winter. And there's going to be a ton of building projects. But right now, what we're going to be focused on is clearing these tomatoes. And to be honest, once they are cleared, I do need to come back through and sweep my black plastic. Bindweed was mental here. The weeds were mental here. And to be honest, I do pull this black plastic back every year, and I do clean under it like you clean underneath your bed, but bindweed here is a massive issue, so it really is a battle against time every single year. But I haven't given up, and we've grown so many tomatoes in this particular plot this year that I can't help but feeling very proud.
Little feet in the fields again, running wild through the rows of green. Joy so simple, pure and true. This is the life we're growing into.
We think it's so important for kids to help out around the homestead. This builds responsibility and respect for work and for the food that we have on the table. I'm not going to lie to you. Yes, there has been a ton of pocket omelettes, broken plants, stress, but we've also got memories, and we've learned and taught each other so much over the years. Jasmine's main job is to look after the chickens, and it's not really a hardship for her because she loves all animals, but we do keep a close eye on her to make sure that she's doing everything that she should be doing. And it boils down to collecting eggs, which can be quite intense in summer. She also changes their water, changes bedding, and makes sure that they have food. Now, chickens don't lay in the winter unless you give them artificial lights, which is something we just never have done because it does put a little bit of a strain on their body. And to be honest, I feel like they can do with a nice break over winter, but it doesn't mean that we don't have to keep up their food and their comfort level, particularly when it's wet and miserable. But right now they are still laying, and they will lay right up until the days get too short. But we're still getting absolutely tons of eggs, and sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. So we're going to show you how we store them for winter a little bit later in the video. I always get the question of how I get the kids so involved down the allotment, and it's really two key points. One, I really do see growing food as a fundamental job. Like brushing your teeth, you might not always enjoy it, but you have to do these jobs. So even when Jazz wants to stay at home, I bundle both kids in the car and take them down the allotment. Before you know it, they're laughing, playing and helping out. But one of the main things to get them down the allotment is to have a list of what you want to be done. It is so tempting when that list is finished and the kids are still playing to just think to yourself, could just weed that carrot bed. And I fell into that trap so many times in the past.
Wood smoke curling in the air.
Now that them tomatoes are roasting in the oven, it's time to put away the salad that we harvested from the greenhouse. It's really important to wash and put away lettuce as soon as possible. But if you aren't able to wash it straight away, it's absolutely fine. All you do is trim the ends and dump it in cold water. And within 10 to 20 minutes, it will crisp up. And then you just spin it and store it in the fridge in a Ziploc. This will crisp your lettuce straight back up. I wash my lettuce and I spin it, and it lasts for like 1 to 2 weeks. But to be honest, we've eaten all of it before it even starts to think about going off. But as for the radishes, they're so easy to store. I do it the same way I do all of my root vegetables. I don't wash them because adding any extra liquid really makes it so likely for them to mould. And then I just trim the ends for about 1 inch and pop them into a Ziploc bag. And this will store radishes for ages. I've never had a radish go soft or soggy in the time that I've had it in the fridge.
Sunset painting colors everywhere. Tiny hands with soil
We still have a ton of eggs coming in, and sometimes it can feel really overwhelming having 9 chickens, but we don't get eggs throughout the winter, so it's really important that we have enough stored up water glassing, which is a really ancient traditional method of storing raw eggs. And I did this years ago, and we actually had them after 2 years, and they were literally the same as the day they were laid. The key point to having eggs that store pretty much indefinitely is only using fresh, clean eggs. Have you ever tried glassing eggs, or is it something that you just wouldn't do? Let me know down below. With all of the eggs that I can't glass, they're either a little bit too dirty or they're a little bit older than I'd like. I'm going to make into pasta. Did you know that pasta from the supermarket doesn't have any eggs in it? It blew my mind, because the only ingredients to pasta is flour and eggs. How can you leave 50% out and still call it pasta? We love pasta, and we've been making it for years, about once a week. So really, we need 52 portions or 156 eggs to make that much pasta. So it doesn't matter that these eggs are either not fresh enough or not clean enough, because we can store so much more pasta. And we're going to make a good dent in it today. If you've never made pasta, it's so much nicer than anything you can get in the shop. It's so tasty and it's so easy to make. So for all of the eggs that I'm not going to be glassing, I'm going to be making them into pasta. But my hack is to use my bread maker, because I'm so lazy and I don't want to be mixing batch after batch after pasta. I use my bread maker as a mixer most days, and it mixes everything from sourdough to pasta. But I don't really bake in it because my daughter says it tastes weird and she won't eat anything that's baked in a bread maker. But if you want to see any of my easy hands-off sourdough recipes, let me know, because I can stick them in another video. Each pasta that we make makes 2 portions. Now you can either dry it or freeze it, and egg pasta really stores well in the freezer. And to be honest, I just don't have the space to dry that much pasta.
Big sisters helping, proud of the life we're in. Little feet in the fields again, running wild through the rows of green. Joy so simple, pure and true.
Once the tomatoes have roasted, this takes about 40 minutes, it's time to can them. And this is my easiest canning recipe. All I'm doing is simply removing the skins, adding a tablespoon of lemon juice, and with my automatic canner, it really does feel like I'm doing zero work here, which I can leave just bubbling away on the side and get in the shower, and I know it's going to be perfectly done.
This is the life we're growing into. Yeah, this is the life we're growing into. Yeah.
Because we've made a ton of pasta today, it honestly would be cruel not to have pasta dinner. It is literally everyone's favourite. So I'm going to make a quick and easy tomato sauce from the tomatoes that we've harvested today. This is one of those meals that everybody eats. My daughter is so fussy at the moment, and when it comes to food, it can be a bit of a battlefield. But honestly, I know that she'll eat pasta. And I got this pasta maker from a charity shop for £1.50. Well, you just can't go wrong with that, can you? But before I made this investment, I used to roll pasta out by hand, which is doable, but it's not my favourite thing to do, because pasta can be quite stiff, particularly if it's been in the fridge relaxing. And it was a little bit difficult to get them into thin and uniform thickness. Favourite things about cooking from scratch is you can do it exactly how you like it, and we prefer a thicker pasta. It's so easy to do, but the key to rolling pasta out is just to keep your pasta floured. And it feels like you're using too much flour, but honestly, as soon as you get into that boiling water, you will not notice you've added any extra flour. You just don't want this sticking together. It will drive you insane.
Early chickens tread. Coffee warms as the morning begins, with laughter rolling on the wind. Little feet in the fields again, running wild through the rows of green. Joy so simple, pure and true. This is the life we're growing into.
We're so excited about this little surprise outing that we have, and it's firework night. So we're back to the allotment to watch the fireworks. Firework night is a celebration that we have here in the UK. And for those of you that don't know, firework night is a celebration of when Parliament wasn't blown up. And we celebrate it by building a big fire and watching fireworks. And some people make guys that they set fire. But this time of year is so full of things to celebrate and family time. I always say that it's my favourite time of year, whatever the season, but it really is my favourite time of the year. It's an absolute fantastic evening where we can relax and enjoy each other's company. Bob built us a wonderful fire. It was absolutely perfect to keep us nice and toasty as we watched the fireworks and debated who forgot the marshmallows. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And if you haven't done already, please consider subscribing. And if you get a free moment, hype this video. It really does help us out. Thanks. Bye, guys.